Marlins fans, welcome to a new edition of Big Fish, Small Pod for Monday, May 13th, here on the Fish on First podcast channel, presented by MPT College Consulting. I want to start a new routine here on Mondays called the Marlins Prospect Spotlight. What I'll be doing rest of the season, hopefully, is picking out a player with each of the Marlins' full season affiliates, AAA Jacksonville, AA Pensacola, High A Beloit, Low A Jupiter, and just going a couple minutes on how they are doing, especially in recent days, recent weeks with that affiliate. One reason or another why these players are kind of capturing my attention. And usually I want this to lean towards positivity, guys who are doing well or improving their stock. But for starters, we need to go with the AAA player of the week is going to be Max Meyer, who you, of course, remember from the major league level earlier in the year, was doing well in the majors, and he's now made 4 abbreviated starts with Jacksonville since getting options. He has struggled quite a bit. Overall, in those 4 outings, a combined 12 and 2/3 innings, a 9.24 ERA, 6.05 FIP, and nearly 2 base runners per inning, a 1.97 WHIP in those 4 abbreviated starts so far. Now, sending him down was partly due to limiting his workload coming off Tommy John surgery. It was also with an emphasis on getting more comfortable and more trust in his changeup. So his changeup usage has nearly doubled from 15% to 27%. This isn't all about results. In fact, results are pretty low priority, I would say. It's just that when they're this bad for a guy that was performing so well at the major league level, and also because I would say his first outing down there was his best and the most encouraging. And it's really been these last 3 where his control has taken a significant step back. He's not finishing off batters the way that he's capable of doing, even with these pitch mix changes. It's somebody that, I'm monitoring. At the major league level right now, the Marlins have at least one clear opening in their rotation. And this would be the time of year where if Max was doing very well in Jacksonville, there would be a strong case for bringing him back up to fill that obvious void. And simply, he's not performing right now in order to do so. I'll continue to keep my eye on him. He looks healthy by all accounts, but this is in some sense an unprecedented struggle for him at the professional level. So that is why I felt it was worth mentioning here on the spotlight. Moving on to AA Pensacola, right-hander Evan Fitterer. He was a 5th-round draft pick of the Marlins way back in 2019. If you do the math, it means that he was eligible to be plucked away in the Rule 5 draft this past offseason, and he was just so inconsistent in 2023 that the Marlins didn't bother protecting him. He was a guy that barely was in our top 30 prospect list on Fish on First entering the year, and for the moment, he's not even ranked in our top 30, largely because of the issues he's had throwing strikes in his career and overall not performing quite as well as his raw stuff would indicate. And now he has had a incredible hot streak. Currently 20 and a third consecutive scoreless innings for Pensacola as a starting pitcher. Includes 3 consecutive scoreless starts, most recently 6 scoreless innings that he threw over the weekend. So the control is still unremarkable. I'd say both that and the command. I watched almost every pitch that he threw in his last outing. Still sometimes where he misses his spot pretty badly. Doesn't get a ton of swing and miss. A pretty average in terms of fastball velocity, but he gets a ton of movement, especially downward on his sinking fastball that he throws. And that leads to a ton of ground balls, especially this year. His ground ball rate well over 60%, where league average at most levels is in the low 40s. So that is something notable that I think seems sustainable moving forward. Is he's going to continue to get a lot of people to swing over his fastball and hit it into the ground. Overall, with his approach, he kind of works a lot to one side of the plate. He's a right-hander that throws glove side a lot, inside to lefty batters, outside to right-handed batters, and doesn't give them a ton to think about on the other side of the plate. So I'd like to see that change from him. Overall, for a guy that has been at the AA level now for more than a calendar year, pretty soon he's going to be making the push up to Jacksonville if he performs this way. And it's not outlandish to think that he will have a good chance of appearing in major league games for the Marlins by the end of the year. So that was Evan Fitterer. right-hander from Double A Pensacola. Moving now to High A, Jacob Miller. He was the Marlins' second-round pick in 2022. Right after Jacob Berry in that draft, and he has arguably emerged as the best prospect from that draft class. Him and Carson Milbrandt have kind of been neck and neck moving through the system together. But Miller is the one that has stood out to me the most so far for Beloit this season. He's in their starting rotation. ERA, I think has dipped into the twos now, coming off his most recent very impressive outing where he tied a career high with 8 strikeouts. With Miller, it's been the improvement in his command for somebody that looked a lot like Fitterer last year, falling behind in counts too often and not finishing off batters the way you would expect. And he's made a pretty significant step forward this year. He started throwing his fastball a little bit differently. So the velocity is very ordinary, a lot of 93 mile per hour, 92 to 94 usually. But his breaking balls were kind of his calling card entering professional baseball, and they continue to do a good job of finishing off hitters. He has both a slider and a curveball that he uses, and he locates them really well. So that improvement in the way that he's repeating his delivery right now is very encouraging for Beloit. This is his first time at the High A level after spending last year in Jupiter. Still just 20 years old, Jacob Miller right there. So I'm going to keep it pretty quick on Miller. But somebody that pretty rapidly was number 11 on our most recent updated top 30 list, rising up pretty quickly in terms of the very best pitching prospects in this entire organization. In Jacob Miller, certainly raising his floor as a pitcher with the adjustments that he's made here in 2024. Lastly, from Low A Jupiter, newly converted catcher Ryan Ignoffo. He was the 20th round pick for the Marlins in 2023. That means he was their very last pick of the draft last year. He has a background playing a bunch of different positions in college and over summer leagues. In fact, when his first year in pro ball last year, he didn't do any catching whatsoever. He played some second base. He played some left field, and he hit very well. He made it all the way up to High A Beloit last year as a new draft pick. This year, he's in Jupiter from start to finish. That team, if you follow the minors very closely, they've been getting terrible offensive production overall from the Jupiter Hammerheads. He's been the bright spot. He has been unequivocally their best regular hitter on the season this year, slashing .309, .418, .455. Somebody that was pitching a lot at this time a year ago. He made 19 relief appearances in his final college season with kind of middling results. He had played so many different defensive positions as well, not just second and left field in the pros, also some third base. He had been playing some right field. Basically, the only position he hadn't gotten considerable experience at in recent years was catcher. And all of a sudden, that is his only spot where he's splitting time between catcher and DH. Not only are the results really good, but so are some of the underlying metrics. He had a couple balls just on Sunday were 100 miles per hour or harder. His average exit velocity, 91.2 miles per hour. And to give you some context, that's about the same as Dane Myers with the Marlins at the major league level this year. That'd be the third highest mark for any Marlins major leaguer who's actually getting substantial playing time this season. And that's what you look out for. Not much room to fill out. He's 5'9", and he has fully maxed out his frame. So I don't think he's getting considerably stronger moving forward. He is 23 years old, which means that he's old enough for this level of competition he's at. He actually turns 24 in about 2 months from now. So yeah, you're not going to learn a ton about him until he moves with the ranks. And it's that awkward balancing act where he's learning a brand new position at catcher. And it's hard to learn that position. You need to go down to a lower level to really start over from that standpoint, even if you are overqualified from the offensive side at that level. And his catching still needs work from my observation. Receiving and framing need a lot of work. He's already been charged with 6 passed balls in about 15 games behind the plate. And wild pitches are occurring more often than usual when he's catching. He has had some success throwing out runners, over 30% caught stealing when Ignoffo is behind the plate. That is very high for somebody playing at the low A level. just somebody that I'm keeping an eye on. It's unusual that somebody drafted this late in the draft even makes it to the majors. He's still quite a bit away from that. The Marlins have had several examples now in recent years of converting normal infielders to catchers, and he's the latest one in this trend, off to an encouraging start. Ryan Ignoffo with low A Jupiter. My prospect spotlight for this week: Max Meyer, Evan Fitterer, Jacob Miller, and Ryan Ignoffo. So I will have more details about these guys on the site, fishonfirst.com. We'll pick out a new batch of guys next Monday for the small pod. And between now and then, we'll have a lot more audio programming covering your Marlins here on the Fish on First podcast, presented by MPT College Consulting. I've been Ely Sussman. Go Fish.